since this is Boulder, just take a good posture and mutual respect and reminder of your mission as life. So today I'm honored to be with Mike Donahue, co-founder, and DJ Mitchell, the Colorado proprietor, owner of LYFE Kitchen. Is it LYFE Kitchen? Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, good. So far, so good. So I'm super excited about LYFE because it signals the beginning of the fruition of a larger movement, which is what? I mean, you both came from McDonald's,
Indeed.
which is really interesting.
Right.
But your role specifically overall at McDonald's as a whole was to deal with criticism in some way and social good.
Right.
So what complaints did you hear for so many years that then you have tried to manifest through your life?
Well, I'd say it started with, after we left our previous work, we said, what can we go out and do and make a difference? And it starts for us, it started with a purpose-driven life. You know, what can we do, having served 50 million people a day, to say what are the skill sets we collectively have in our group to go out and make a difference? So we had heard from consumers, we were steeped in customer research, everything else. We decided we're going to go out there and meet what we felt was the biggest unmet need in the consumer today. That's great tasting food that happens to taste good for you.
Mm-hmm.
That happens to be good for you.
Yeah.
Great tasting food
and
that is good for you.
So, you know, New York Times, when they wrote about you guys, called it something like fast casual or fresh casual.
We prefer lifestyle brand, Waylon. The lifestyle brand, that is, it's not just what I eat, but it's what I eat and what I do. It's kind of that energy balance. So we prefer that.
So it's wellness,
Right,
food,
right,
the environment.
right.
So what is different about LYFE Kitchen, say, and, you know, any other fast food joint?
Well, and that's what we were talking about a little bit, is we went out when we started the vision of the company. It was to say, let's meet this unmet need, great tasting food, and we say that over and over, it's got to be great tasting.
Yeah.
That also happens to be good for you. So we went on a taste quest. And we went out, and the first thing
You
we
should
did...
have invited me on the taste quest. That sounds
We're going to
awesome.
love to have you.
It took
Yeah.
a couple of years.
Yeah.
It
I
was
like
a
to
long
eat.
journey.
Taste quest.
And so,
You didn't rush the quest.
Right.
Right.
So who's the first guy we went to? Chef Art Smith, known for his being personal chef to Oprah Winfrey for years, 5 white tablecloth restaurants, macaroni and cheese, fried chicken, made great turkey meatloaf that Oprah used to just go on and on about on TV. And we had read, I had met him before and was a friend, that he went through his own transformation. He had diabetes, he was having trouble with his eyesight, he was probably 300 pounds.
Wow.
So he had lost about 100 pounds.
I guess if you're that good a cook, you know.
Yes, and he loved taste.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all he would talk about was taste. So we brought him in and we met with him, and he had lost 125 pounds. And we said, what are you doing? We want to hear from you because we know it's got to start with taste.
Wow.
And then we figured we were going to smash food at him, so to speak. And we found Chef Tout Ronan out in Los Angeles, who was the #1 vegan vegetarian chef that everybody knows and had worked with, and made some great strides in that area. And then we began the taste quest at Chef Art's house. And it's a great story because he has a little kitchen that most restaurants would die for. And we walk in there, and all over the counter are these little saucers and dishes, and they're filled with herbs and spices and different items that he said to us one day, this is how people will be cooking in the future. And these herbs and spices and sauces will take the place of butter and cream and sodium and sugar. So we're walking around, what is turmeric? You know, what is this? What is that?
Yeah.
Ancient grains, Tal Ronan had there. They brought in a third chef who was a gourmet chef from Charlie Trotter's, one of the finest 7 restaurants in the world out of Chicago. And so we tasted this, we said, let's begin. And that was February, March of 2010. We spent a better part of a year and a half just taking these ingredients and making our menu so that it would taste great. And a lot of it didn't meet our standards, the like.
Right. Yeah, so I'm vegan. I love organic food, local food. I can definitely concur that a lot of that, as you'll find in restaurants, hasn't been that good. In Boulder, we're pretty lucky to have amazing restaurants.
Right.
But as a, you know, on the national landscape, the food landscape, you know, we've had Fast Food Nation, we've had Super Size Me, which I'm sure you love that,
Right.
working for McDonald's.
Morgan.
Yeah, your good buddy Morgan.
Yeah.
And Michael Pollan and farmers markets expanding in popularity, but at the same time, diabetes and obesity crisis. So is life in some ways sort of a hopeful manifestation of those movements and of the crisis America's going through?
So we learned this. Every issue that we could absolutely be dealt with out there in the food world, and that was brought to the world's most recognized trademark. So if somebody wanted to make a statement about it, why not go to the parking lot of McDonald's?
Right.
And so we realized all this. We learned so much about it. Some of it was real science.
And it was your job to respond to it.
That was my job.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun. Because my feeling then was, just like now, you have to have that purpose. And a lot of times what I was doing is try to argue between what is real food issues and food science. Environmental was a big issue with packaging and everything else, and what is not.
Yeah.
And so I felt that was very important and enjoyed it. But what we learned as a result is that the consumer is always ahead of the market. The markets chase the consumer, not the other way around. Steve Jobs might be the exception. He created products
Right.
you didn't know you could.
Well, he
live
was
without.
the ultimate consumer. That was part of his model.
Right.
Yeah.
So for us, the consumer was already out there making these changes and asking for these issues, no matter what end of the continuum. So it was easy to build a model around what the consumer wanted, which is what we did.
So, McDonald's is a pretty smart company. Obviously, they're successful.
Right.
Why wouldn't McDonald's, with all this insight you're gaining over the years, obviously they have changed in some ways, but why wouldn't they say this is where we should go business-wise?
It's to the point that the consumer is way ahead of the marketplace. They have, in their own way. For years there's been billions of dollars of better for you food. Your point about the taste is an issue. By the home meal replacement, whether it's Seattle Sutton's, whether it's Nutrisystem, whether it's all these different firms. Whole Foods with 200 grocery stores changed the entire landscape of grocery. Right. Every single Kroger's and Safeway had to remodel because of the way they put their produce out and the rest of that. So McDonald's, like everybody else, has made changes. Apple dippers are now served instead of fries. Every single restaurant has some way that they're trying to address this. It just matters on how far they go.
So you've been called the aspiring to be the Whole Foods of fast food or something like that. The criticism of Whole Foods all the time, like McDonald's gets its criticisms, but Whole Foods is that it's for the affluent only.
Right.
Do you regard Chipotle as an inspiration or an example, since they're affordable and healthy?
They are, in the sense that Steve Elves was brilliant with food with integrity.
Or you can trash talk Chipotle if you want some
great brand, brand.
Absolutely great brand. The food with integrity was good. It resonated with the consumer.
Right.
We followed those kind of standards, but what we like to be is 100% transparent with everything we make. So we show calories, 600 calories or less, most of it much less. 1,000 milligrams of sodium, most of it much less. You won't find that kind of disclosure in many of today's restaurants. We pick no food fights, but at the end of the day, you won't find that level of transparency.
Right.
The products and the ingredients, just like ours, are whole and clean and better for you.
Right. I guess my question was, Chipotle is being transparent about GMOs, which was pretty big, but is there a price point? It's like $6.50 or something for a huge burrito.
I'll let you talk about that. That's good.
Well, I think yes, and absolutely. I think the background of the founders, coming from a place where you're serving 50 million people a day and it's affordable, it was important. It was an important piece to say we don't want to cater to the extremely affluent only.
Right.
And there are people who are doing that. There are concepts out there who are very, very high end.
Who is
True Food Kitchen, for example. And they're a full service. And so we just wanted to be approachable, affordable, that kind of accessibility to more of the masses. Yeah.
I should mention, since we're having construction noise and we have a wrinkled banner here, that we are in a construction zone, which I actually love because it's fitting. LYFE is just coming to Boulder.
Yes.
And you all are planning on 250 locations around the country.
We're going for
2
smart
years or something?
No, we originally said in 5 years.
Oh, 5
and
years.
we currently have 10. We're on par to make another 5 this year, and then we believe 20 or so next year. We're going to continue to look at that each year, make sure that we're going at a smart rate. You don't want to you don't want to exhaust your resources too quickly, but we're looking into that.
Right. And you have to train. I mean, that's one thing. I know Chipotle pretty well. I know the people there because they're based here, and
Right.
you know their management structure and their training system was just. I mean, I'm sure
Right.
McDonald's has their own, but it was one of the coolest things about Chipotle. I feel like.
You'll like this story. We had a 2.5-hour meeting with Ryan Seacrest.
Uh-huh.
He was going to do a reality show on the guys from where we came from doing this. And we had Art Smith in some of the meetings and some of the other things that we were talking about. And we started getting on this issue of affordability. And Art Smith was asked after his Oprah gig, of course, book club success, you can go anywhere you want. Chains were offering him jobs, just like you see today, great chef, bring him. Tal Ronan, same thing after he was named 2010 #1 vegan vegetarian chef. They said, no, we want to go to the place that's going to make it as ubiquitous as possible.
That's
And
cool.
in our what they were saying is, these people served 50 million people before. They know how to get the economies to scale. Art Smith, it would have been a great show, by the way, if Seacrest would have picked it up. Stormed out of meetings if we started talking about we got to go to certain areas first, whether it be Palo Alto, where we started, it came down to Palo Alto and Boulder,
Yeah.
because of this whole issue of you mitigate risk first, you go where the strongest your support is, and then you go ubiquitous with the economies of scale. He was worried that we wouldn't do it fast enough. But their whole reason
Cool.
for joining us was so one day we could be on a linked program, one day we could be involved in food deserts and take this everywhere through different
So Art,
distribution.
Art Smith came down when we opened our first restaurant in south of Denver in Park Meadows Mall.
And that's one of your.
That's
How
our
many
first
restaurants are you going to have here in Colorado?
As many as the market will bear.
All right, I like that.
Um,
Good
Yeah,
answer.
2 now.
So he
Or
came
this
down.
was
He,
like-
he did an
Yeah.
event for us with the University of Colorado Hospitals, and they were breaking ground on a place. And he told me, he said, "Look, I have 5 fine dining restaurants." He goes, "I'm never going to open another one." He says, "It's just it's hard, and I want to get out there and get my product, get my philosophy, get my ideas out there to more folks."
Every now and then we have him tell him, it's just not yours, Art. But that's
right.
good. He's big as life.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
love him, and he
Yeah.
creates so much.
Well, that sense of ownership too makes
Yeah.
a company great if you can.
Right. Oh, yeah. And
Work
Tal
with it.
and the rest, the same.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So the food landscape of U.S. LYFE Kitchen emerging out of that. It's pretty exciting. We're going to do 3 more videos. You can find them all on YouTube, SoundCloud, and elephantjournal.com. LYFE Kitchen.
Thank you very much, Waylon.
TJ.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right.